So I've trimmed away our excess paper around the sill and at the bottom there on the skirting line. Saw me trim the top. So now I have a small piece, a header, to go around the top of our window. Now, as I said, two techniques, all dependent on the type of paper you have really. You can start a new piece so you haven't got to do any wraparounds. You could match the pattern back here somewhere and splice through. I'm going to show you the correct technique, which is to match your paper to your pattern here. Now this is quite an unusual geometric pattern in that a lot of white lines, horizontal and vertical, on a dark background. That is really showing up levels. Now straight away, I've put this up. I know my paper is perfectly level. This is level, this paper is level. I've got my levels right. I can already see just ever so slightly, this line is going from above the reveal to slightly under. Now that means this window isn't perfectly level. Something you do have a slight say in, you could come to this job and you might be working in an old house with very bad corners, nothing's level. You know what it's like working in an old property, and the customer gives you a paper like this. In my opinion, I would say you would suggest to the customer, this isn't the right paper for this room. If you've got uneven vertical, horizontal levels and you're using something that highlights that, if you're using a paper that highlights that, I would suggest that it's not a good idea. If they tell you to press on, then all you can do is say, well, my paper is level. I can't do anything about your ceiling lines, your window reveals being perfectly level as well. This is a newer property, maybe 30 years old. The plastering is reasonably good. The levels are okay, but straight away I can see this highlights the fact it isn't perfect. And sometimes people want perfect. But anyway, so let's go up with this paper. Again, I use my brush to wrap around external angles. This is a very thin paper, it's not great quality, so I've got to be very careful the way I handle it. The paper to my left, this one here, was exceptionally good quality. I could really work that without any fear of it tearing or creasing. This one I've got to be a lot more careful with. So my paper's up, I'll press into the window here. Draw my knife along, keep the blade sharp. The second it starts to snag or tear the paper, you know your blade's not sharp enough. It will be dependent on the quality of paper, but you can still get by if you keep snapping off your blades, keeping that very sharp. Okay, and have your wet cloth handy. I keep mine on my shoulder. Take off excess paste all the time and give the front of your paper a wipe down in case you've got any paste on there. When the paste is wet, you can't see it. You don't know if you've got paste on there. When it dries white, excuse me, and very flaky. You immediately see it. So it's not a bad thing just to give the front of your paper a wipe off as you go before the paste dries. So all the excess paste taken off, and I've got this little lip up here because I'm going to put a piece of paper in, and I'll show you that next.